We're live.
Hello everyone, thanks for joining us and welcome to Mutual Responsibility's virtual roundtable. Overworked, overstressed, and disillusioned. Time to rethink the American dream? My name is Gianni Conti and I will be your host for the following discussion. Joining me tonight are a group of panelists from a wide range of backgrounds, but each feel in one way or another that the American dream needs to be revisited, perhaps completely rethought. And tonight, they will share their views on this hot topic. I'd like to start out with Felicia Rosenberg. How are you, Felicia?
Just dandy, Gianni. Thank you. I'm so happy to be here.
Good to have you here. Felicia went from homeless to Harvard to homeless again, earning 3 university degrees and becoming a medical device industry executive. She now works as a freelance writer and an insurance salesperson. The next person I'd like to introduce from our panel is Gregory Haddock. How are you, Gregory?
Very well, thank you.
Good to have you here.
It's good to be here, thank you.
Gregory is a social activist, a participant in the Occupy movement, currently living in Germany, and pursuing a master's degree in political science.
Soon, I hope to.
And excellent. And our next distinguished guest is Leslie Bishop. Hi, Leslie.
Hi.
Thanks for joining us. As a divorced and single mother, Leslie went from being a stay-at-home mom to climbing the corporate ladder at a Fortune 500 company. She is also a licensed physical therapist. Great to have you here, Leslie.
Thank you, guys.
Next up is Alicia Horowitz. Hello, Alicia.
Hello. Hi, everybody.
Good to be with you.
Good to be
Alicia
here.
was born on a kibbutz and went on to earn a mathematics and chemistry degree as well as a doctorate in veterinary medicine from the Free University of Berlin. He recently sold his private practice and now lives in Florida. Great to have you, Alicia.
Thank
Deborah
you.
Wood is up next. Hi, Deborah. How are you?
Hi. So happy to be here.
Deborah, as a certified utilization review agent, discovered the inconsistencies within the state and federal agencies that are supposed to be for the welfare of all. She currently works in the music industry and as a public service volunteer, helping to make the welfare of all a reality. Next up is Elena Mangana. Hi, Elena.
Hello, how are you guys?
Good
Hello,
to have you.
thank you.
Elena immigrated 20 years ago from Russia to Canada. As a medical engineer and community servant by professions, she now works with retirees, helping them and their families as they manage the second halves of their lives. She is also an on-call support worker in her community. Great to have you, Elena.
Thank you so much to be here.
Next up is Walter Sikitka. Hello, Walter.
Yeah, hi. Thanks for inviting me. Happy to be here.
Happy to have you. Walter is an author of the bestseller Public Works, A Handbook for Self-Reliant Living. He was president of the Association for World Free Trade Zones, has conducted a trade zone conference for the UN, and for 12 years wrote a monthly newsletter on the international trade and investments. He is now working on the Whole Earth Design Project and is a self-described 1960s radical utopian. Good to have you, Walter. And finally, it's Peter Chicharo, who is our mutual responsibility representative. Peter works in the fitness industry after becoming disillusioned with the prospects of working a 9 to 10 p.m. on Wall Street. He teaches classes and is featured in fitness magazines. Great to have you, Peter.
Thanks, Johnny. Hi, everyone. Great to be here.
Excellent. So in order for us to gain some perspective on the topic of the American dream today, I'd like to read some conclusions and statistics from an expert on this topic, Joseph Stiglitz, an American professor at Columbia University, a 2001 recipient of the Nobel Memorial Prize in Economic Sciences, a former chairman of the Council of Economic Advisors, and chief economist of the World Bank, and currently ranked as fourth most influential economist in the world today based on academic citations. In his article, America is no longer the land of opportunity, published by the Financial Times in 2002, Mr. Stiglitz says the following: U.S. inequality is at its highest point for nearly a century. Those at the top, no matter how you slice it, are enjoying a larger share of the national pie. The number below the poverty level is growing. The gap between those with the median income and those at the top is growing too. The U.S. used to think of itself as a middle-class country, but this is no longer true. The U.S. worked hard to create the American dream of opportunity, but today that dream is a myth. While the top 1% of income earners took home 93% of growth in incomes in 2010, the households in the middle, who are most likely to spend their incomes rather than save them, and who are, in a sense, the true job creators, have lower household incomes adjusted for inflation than they did in 1996. Our skyrocketing inequality, so contrary to our meritocratic ideal of America as a place where anyone with hard work and talent can make it, means that those who are born to parents of limited means are likely never to live up to their potential. More than a fifth of our children live in poverty, the second worst of all the advanced economies, putting us behind countries like Bulgaria, Latvia, and Greece. The dream of a better life that attracted immigrants to our shores is being crushed by an ever-widening chasm of income and wealth. Not solely an American dilemma, many people throughout the world are also feeling this middle-class squeeze, clearly indicating that our global economy is today very much interconnected and interdependent. As managing director of the International Monetary Fund, Christine Lagarde has put it like this: "We are all in one boat, one global economy. Our fortunes rise together and they fall together. We have a collective responsibility to bring about a more stable and more prosperous world, a world in which every country can reach their full potential." As our panelists are discussing this topic, we invite you, our valued guests who are joining us online from around the world, to also participate in the discussion by answering tonight's questions via the live chat. Also, at the close of the event, there will be a surprise ending, but you'll have to wait for that. So to begin, we'd like first to present the rules of the roundtable. And they're very simple. Basically, we want to be sort of like a family just having a conversation around the dinner table. We're relaxed, and the roundtable has these simple rules. In a roundtable, there are no more important people, no less important people. All are equal and very important. We don't argue, we don't negate, we're only here to collaborate and add to what each person before said. A real solution is not going to come from verbal perfection, but only through the connection. So now we'll go ahead and move to questions. The first question of our roundtable today is, do you think the American dream, an aspiration for a good life shared by everyone, everywhere, is in jeopardy today? If yes, then why? Please explain your position. Is the question clear to all? Okay, wonderful. So I would like to start with Felicia.
Alrighty. Well, not only is it in jeopardy, it hasn't been, it's been a myth for a while. I mean, the idea is that you can work really hard, and as long as you work really hard, then wealth and security and happiness will come your way. That's just not the case. It just plain flat out is not the case. From my personal history, growing up in an abusive household, leaving early and thinking, okay, I really need to get a good education in order to be able to take care of myself. Nobody is taking care of me. I need to do that. So the American dream, I'll pull myself up by my bootstraps. Well, 3 degrees later, one of them from Harvard, here I am at this stage of the game, having won and lost and won and lost and won and lost again. I work with small business owners on a regular basis. I was teaching entrepreneurial education at a university, and it was the same situation for them, working and working and working and working and working and working, and financial security eluding them. So, Gianni, it just don't exist. It just don't exist. Thank you.
So that's an interesting perspective, Felicia, and I would like to go next to someone who may have a similar view or maybe a slightly different experience based on her experience in the business world and climbing this corporate ladder. So if we could go to Leslie.
Hi guys, I feel the same as Felicia. Basically, my husband and I lived what we considered the American dream, and my money that I made, it was a CSR job. Customer service was extra money to play with, and the more my husband and I worked with, the more we got stressed out, running the kids' functions, basically keeping up with the Joneses. We lost our relationship and divorced. So I found myself as a single mother and trying to climb the corporate ladder. Got financial stability after 15 years. And then my grandfather, not my father, but my grandfather unexpectedly came to live with me. So it was in that time that my values changed. And I was so caught up in the almighty dollar before that, and he really showed me compassion again, and it changed my values. And then I had a change in career because I just could not do that job anymore, the advertising job. And so I opened up a small business, and while I didn't make anywhere near what I was making before, I'm just so much happier. The thing is that even I live in a small town in North Carolina, and even though unemployment rates have gone down, it's because companies are offering part-time jobs instead of the full-time jobs and without benefits. So we're working double the jobs trying to keep up. And so that has led basically to the community trying to help each other. We have a free clinic now, and free health clinic, and there's community gardens, things like that. And it's just about helping each other. So to me, that would be the solution, just people helping each other out.
Maybe we could go to Gregory, who can add his perspective from the standpoint of somebody who's emerging into the job market and this whole economic era.
Yeah, absolutely. Thank you. My personal experience comes from working in a bank that was shut down by the FDIC. One of the weirdest experiences I had personally. Shortly after I had purchased a home at the peak of the housing bubble, which eventually, as we all know, popped and lost thousands in equity overnight. It really just kind of shook me to the bone in terms of the thing that we think is so solid and the thing that we're taught, and basically what I would say brainwashed to believe is that this American dream is for everybody, it's accessible, and that it's a good thing. And while it's a great idea, in practice it just really has not played out well. Beyond that, my personal experience with people is that we know that there are systemic issues, but when it comes down to it, at the end of the day, people are just tired and apathetic, working sometimes 2 jobs, or what Arlie Hochschild would call the second shift, doing unpaid reproductive labor, coming home and basically just getting ready for the next day. I think a lot of it is related to just basically being unplugged from the system. And one of the greatest examples of keeping people preoccupied is this identity crisis we have in terms of being diehard Democrats, diehard Republicans, instead of seeing that there's something much bigger at work on top of us, mainly mega corporations, mega rich, a completely broken healthcare system, and really not challenging those old platforms and trying to emerge with something new, something better.
Thank you, Gregory. Can we go to Alicia next?
My American dream is a bit different because I came from a kibbutz, and growing in a small little place like kibbutz, America always looked to me as something that I wanted to really arrive at some point, but not really from an economic point of view, but rather from just something calling from over there that I had to experience. And when I actually got to America, I never thought there was anything of a dream in it. Neither I think today. Was never an American dream. There was an American illusion that everybody had, that it existed somewhere in our subconscious. And now even that illusion is being taken away from anybody who allowed himself to dream before. Now it becomes like nightmare, I would say. Because the situation now is that the values have not changed, yet the apathetic, like I heard from Gregory, I believe that disjoint feeling between the system and the individual is the gap, the chasm is so big that we're not even have an idea of what world we're existing anymore. So I think what I heard is that we really have to start gathering together our pieces, as was said before. We need to work together to start dreaming again. But right now, I don't see the existence of the American dream.
That's a fascinating perspective, Alicia, from the standpoint of somebody who's originally coming from a kibbutz. Maybe, Elena, you could add to this perspective, first of all, as a Canadian and as an immigrant from Russia.
Yes, it's a very quiet experience. Hi, guys. First of all, I really enjoy to join you. I came to Canada about 20 years ago with dreams, American dreams, which one were painting back home in Russia that everything fine, everything okay. You can reach the point of the life when you can feel safe, secure, be sure about your health, about your environment. And almost from the beginning, my dreams start to fall apart. Like starting to break up the family and seeing how people involved in drugs and their life just lose the value at all. And afterwards, when I try to fit in the environment, I see how hard it is for me, like immigrant, like the English second language. And I went through different kind of stages and finally found a job like personal support worker. And I start to see there is no dreams. The children are not safe. the elderly people, they taken out of the family environment. The family who are living like middle class is falling down to the poverty, and quality of life it's dramatically changed. Like during these 20 years, I see like it's just falling down every day, every day. So, and I'm asking the people at my work if they feel the same, and they saying to me, and nobody wants to come to America anymore. They feel more okay in their own countries, in their own environment. So it's no American dreams anymore. Thank you.
Thank you, Elena. Deborah, could you share with us?
Yes, I can. Thank you for having me here. Um, when I was growing up, the American Dream was a show like the Donna Reed Show or Leave It to Beaver, and so you grew up thinking that your family was going to be like that. That when you grew up and got married, those type of things were going to happen, and the husband would go to work, you raise your family, and everything's hunky dory, and you don't worry really about anything because you work together as a family. And I quickly found out that as time went on in the 60s and 70s that I started seeing a depletion of the American dream. With we saw a lot of good things, civil rights movement and so forth. And I got married at a young age and had children at a young age and saw that, and I was in a bad marriage, which resulted in a divorce 19 years later. Uh, I was fortunate enough that my family, my mother and father, and I have 4 brothers and a sister, were the ones that helped me recover from uh, what I had been through, and they were still living the old dream of where everybody helped each other. And as time goes on in raising my children, and seeing their friends, I saw that families weren't being supportive to their children. Uh, they had to work and leave their children all the time. I started seeing children being left alone. They called them, I think it was latchkey kids. When they're growing up, and the kids just went home to an empty environment, an empty home. And and I see in my own children today that they can't even afford to. They both have to work. The husband and the wife both have to work. They even have to take turns not even being able to stay home and take care of their children when they're ill. Uh, Insurance companies change their benefits all the time. I have a grandson that has Asperger's syndrome, and in order to afford the things they need for him, they both have to work because the insurance doesn't even provide the services they're supposed to provide. So I mean, everything is mixed up with everything. If people don't realize how one thing affects the other, and we don't really help each other anymore. I don't think it's so much like well, there is apathy, but I think it's even turning more into indifference, where you talk to young children today. My daughter teaches in a junior high school, and the kids are really indifferent. Nothing matters to them, and so they're growing up this way. And I feel there has to be a solution in uh, in the environment some way to change the environment so they can start seeing a different effect that people need each other, and no one should be alone.
Thank you, Debbie. And Walter, could you please share?
Yeah, sure. I'd like to. Thanks for the opportunity. I certainly agree with everyone with the sad stories that they've been telling that we're living in a terrible time right now, and I agree that the American dream is really basically gone. So the point I would like to make, though, is what's the reason for this? And the reason I would declare is capitalism. What we are in a world in which, as a result of the capitalist system, everybody on Earth is required to compete with everybody else on Earth in one degree or another, whether it's your job or your town competing with the next town, or countries versus country, and all of that. So what's really needed is a new vision of some kind. And as much as I sympathize with the Occupy movement, for example, and they did a wonderful thing by concentrating that slogan of 1% versus the 99%, what's missing is some sort of a plan or an answer for how we get out of this. And so that's basically what I'm trying to promote with the whole Earth Design Project, because I think it's quite clear that collectively the human race knows enough about the physics and the chemistry and the biology and everything so that everybody on the planet should be able to have all of life's essentials assured to them. And so what I want to do is try to make the point through the educational ability of the internet and its organizational ability to make the point that Buckminster Fuller made 50 years ago. He said 60% of the work done in the United States produces nothing of value. I think it's 80% now. All the rest is bankers and lawyers and investors and marketers and all that sort of thing. So we need a new vision. That's my contribution to the conversation.
Thank you, Walter. Peter.
Yeah, hi everyone. I feel like everybody stole what I was going to say. I agree very much with all of you that there is a problem. There is some discontent amongst all of us as panelists, and I think with the people in America and kind of even in the Western world as a whole. We see so many people who are, as this kind of roundtable is titled, who are overworked, tired, stressed, not happy, not fulfilled. And I'm sorry, I forget who it was, but one of the panelists said it's not the American dream, it's the American illusion. And I think this is a great title because people are kind of waking up to the fact that what we have been striving for the past 100 or so years, it doesn't work. It's not like it's bad or it's good, it just leaves us in the state that we're in now, which is this state of kind of unfulfillment or disconnect, or something is lacking. And the American dream, it promises abundance. You know, you can have everything, all the food, the money, the houses, the materialistic goods. We could consume everything, and people have. America became the richest society in the world. Did that make us happy? Of course not. I think Harvard, they did the longest study ever commissioned that found the key to happiness is something very simple. It's in our social relationships. So the American dream, it is in jeopardy simply because it doesn't give happiness. It's an illusion. And so people get stuck in this rat race of working and competing against one another. And what results is this huge inequality. And as the world has changed, we see with the internet, we can all connect from all over the world. We've become more connected and interdependent on one another. We see this in the economies and politics all over the world. If one country's economy goes down, we see in the European Union, another country will go down. So because of this interconnected world, I do think that we have to kind of, I think as Walter said, reshape the system by which we all kind of model our lives around. And I would say, and I think Mutual Responsibility would say that we have to focus more on relationships, social relationships, human relationships. I think most scientists, most studies, and most people would agree this is kind of the key towards fulfillment and towards happiness, not this overconsumption, which is just, as somebody said, I think perfectly, an illusion. So I think people are growing up and kind of ridding themselves of this artificial economy and going after something more substantive and real. So I do think it's a good thing, actually.
Thank you, Peter. And now I'd like to go back to Leslie for the second question. The second question is, If the old way of doing things no longer works, which I think everybody kind of agreed with, and it's interesting hearing all your perspectives kind of like bring this all into focus. If it no longer works, then what new approach could we use to secure a good life? If the old way of doing things no longer works, then what new approach could we use to secure a good life? Leslie, can you share?
Yes, it actually is happening in the small community that I live in. We were known as the furniture place of the South, and everybody worked in factories. A lot of those jobs went to China. So we had lots of, well, we had one of the highest unemployment rates. And in that, we saw that people were really struggling and losing their homes. And so we all have gotten together as a community, and now we, like I had said earlier, we do community gardens. Each person works their own patch, and it's trade out and bartering, and going back to basic necessities. But everyone is taking care of everyone, and basically I think that's what we're going to have to realize. Redefining that American dream and build relationships with our neighbors.
Great, thank you, Leslie. So building relationships, building our community, and supporting one another. Felicia, could you share with us?
Yes, thank you, Gianni. My angle from this question comes from my experience again, and that's working with small businesses. These folks, to begin with, the American dream isn't working because regardless of how hard they work, the income isn't coming in that will support their families and their lifestyles comfortably. And part of that reason is because even though they're really great folks and they've got great products and they're ethical and all they want to do is to earn an honest day's dollar for an honest day's work, they can't get customers because we're so jaded by what's gone on around us that nobody will listen to them. And it will cost them lots and lots of money to try to get out marketing messages and things of this nature, and they don't have the money to do that. So one of the things that we're experimenting with now is we're creating like a white hat community where all of it, for example, I sell health insurance in the state of Texas. So I'm a white hat. I'm a good guy, who has a great product and wants to make an honest day's dollar for an honest day's work. Well, I was at the garage the other day getting my state inspection done, and I've got to have some work done on the car. Well, this is a really great guy, so he's wearing a white hat. I've got to get some printing done, so this is a really great guy, and he's wearing a white hat. So what we're doing is that we're coming together and collaborating, looking at each other not in terms of competition, but looking at each other in terms of, okay, how can we support each other? What can we do so that we can pass on our customers to each other? And in this fashion, we are very confident about making referrals, and we're hoping that our businesses will grow as a result of this referral system too. So it's kind of not unlike what Leslie's community experienced in terms of what's an entrepreneur? Somebody who really needs to make a buck. You figure out what you need to do to make a dollar and to survive. It is new. It's a fresh way of looking at things, and it's experimental. But I'm telling you. It feels great to wear a white hat, and it feels great to be in a community of people who are wearing white hats and everybody's looking out for each other. It's a world of difference, a world of difference. So we'll see. Thank you.
So another example of how the solution comes through connection between people. Gregory,
Yeah. I think the short answer to the approach that we need to use that would work is very straightforward: getting money out of politics. The lobbying that happens in this country, where we have over 3,700 lobbyists for Washington, D.C. in healthcare alone, it's a disgusting part of our tradition. And campaign contribution reform, where we have companies that donate to both sides because no matter what, they've got a great foundation and they know that they've got to win. That's just what we do. It's been the business for a long time. So bam, fix the problem right there, just doing that. But going further about what we could actually do ourselves, I'm glad Walter said that capitalism itself is completely flawed, and it has been in sacrilegious, blasphemous sin to ever even mention those words, and it's time that we start having a real conversation about that. The only other alternative that we've ever really seen on this planet, or that we really talk about in terms of thesis, antithesis, is communism, with what we've seen with China, USSR, and North Korea. These aren't communist forms, as Richard Wolff points out, that these are forms of state capitalism where we've never actually seen power go to the hands of the people. Every person here so far has said something to the effect of community and wanting to see people work together in a better way, wanting to see a little bit more interconnectedness, or already knowing that that's part of our nature and wanting to find a way to work out that to a better degree. Richard Wolff, Noam Chomsky, and Gar Alperovitz, along with many others, economists, talk about worker takeovers, that this top-down hierarchy that we've been using for a long time is just simply an old model. Since we've never seen worker-directed enterprises in terms of the organization of production, the organization of surplus, it's about time that we democratize work, we democratize our politics, for that matter, and really give things back into the hands of the people. If we let people control that once again and really let that common voice come through, I don't think we'll be disappointed. I think we'll find out that we've been living in a shroud of that illusion, and to find that there's something much better. Thank you.
Thank you. I think Walter could add an interesting layer or perspective to what you said. So Walter, could you share?
Yeah, sure. Again, I would concentrate on the fact, I think it's wonderful and very important that people do establish close relationships with friends and family and neighbors in order, as some have already illustrated, they're feeling great support by getting close with other people. In addition to that, while we are trying to build up these relationships, I think we need to start a discussion about a new form of control of the economy, and this has got to be something that is accomplished without the use of the concept of money, because the concept of money, it dehumanizes all these human relationships, because it means that we're always competing with somebody. The worker is competing with the employer, the buyer is competing with the seller, and this permeates all of society, and as a result of this competitive system, we should not be surprised that there are so many losers and these enormous winners who you wonder, what are they doing with all this money that they've got now, and what's the purpose behind that? So there's a morality involved here that has to change. Thanks.
Thank you, Walter. I'm interested to hear Alicia's perspective on this. Alicia, could you?
Yeah, thank you. I think that what's shaping up here is an array of a lot of thinking in so many directions, and yet there's something that's shaping out here that is interesting, that we start to think outside of the box. But everybody thinks from their angle, his or her, and this is really what's going on here, that we need to start thinking outside of the box as people at the bottom, or people that are living normal life or want to have normal values, security for our children, education, health insurance, honest dollar, all of these things really belong to us. We cannot address issues with where um, the old values that were referred to are working at. They're not going to be where we could start with. We need to start believing in ourselves, first of all. And I like that idea that on a community level, you're starting to create changes between people. As said before, it's a relationship between people that creates the trust. And that trust is totally independent of what's going on up there in politics. I think the garbage in politics is only there because we lost trust in ourselves and we want other people to solve our problems for us. And I think that's a good start to just start thinking in my community, my neighbors, the people that I could relate to directly. These are the people that I can create a new reality. Thank you.
Thank you. So it's like we have to start in our immediate social environment. Elena.
Thank you so much, Elisha. And after your words, I feel like just maybe there is some kind of button and press it. It's like a restart button. And to try to change my own point of view of everything and started build it again. And I realized seriously that my own action affect my own family. So where is solution? A solution inside me. I need to change. I need to change inside me, and maybe that's helped me to change my children's life, my family life, my neighbor's life, and community, and maybe from there we can change all the world. This is kind of beautiful perspective of the view, I think, and will be probably the future for us. I feel like you throwing this stone in the water, and this stone, if it's okay shape, it's go even around, and nice and warm environment we can build. Thank you.
Thank you. Deborah?
Hi. Well, I believe it involves several things. I give lectures to various types of people that are out of work, people that have problems with insurance, or just all kinds of people. And I find that I should say, that we need to have some type of re-education or education of our public. And a lot of people don't know things. They don't know things about the happenings of things or how things happen and what can be done about it, and what things can be done in their favor. And so I feel like we need to re-educate our society. And I think that once they know things, they can stick up for themselves better in their own environment. I feel also my husband has like a music store and a recording studio, and hardworking people come to him and pay for their children's lessons, and then when hard times fall upon them, they feel like they have to pull their children out. But Charlie says that it's not always about the dollar, and he barters with them. Oil changes, instead of money for the guitar lessons, or find some way so they can keep that child, in the ability to do something that he loves and feels. And I feel that that's an avenue we could do with each other, find something that we could, share with others, and where it's not always about what's in it for me or the dollar amount, or, because it's not always about that. In talking to young people, they need to be taught again empathy for others. They've lived in an environment so long where it really hasn't mattered too much because their parents are always gone. about what's really going on with them. They're like a second thought almost. And I mean, parents come home from work, they do, you know, maybe sit with their kids for an hour to eat and do their homework, and then they take a bath, and then it's off to bed, and it's the same thing. And so they try to crowd everything into a weekend. They get a weekend, and so they're so tired that they just want to stay home, and the kids want to do something. And also, then you got grandparents complaining because the grandkids don't come see them, because the parents just want to try to recapture their own little family life. And there's so many places that I see if we could establish something that would help people change their environment, and educating people about how that can come about, and showing them methods and something to give them some type of hope for their families.
Thank you, Debbie. Peter, if you could do a minute or less, because I want to have time for the last question. Go ahead.
Sure. In a minute or less, to echo, I think, what everybody said. I think actually, Deborah, you just said it. This word, it's not a sexy word. It's a word that's used constantly in politics, especially when elections time. You know, it's a word, education. It's not sexy, it's dull, it's boring. But what is education? I think we have to raise awareness of the influence of our society or of our environment on one another. We know if we weren't raised with the parents we were raised with, and we were raised in a forest with I don't know, wild dogs or something, we would come out much different than how we came out being raised in a Western society. So I think we need to raise this importance of the influence of our surroundings. You know, that expression, you are who you hang out with. Well, we're all kind of hanging out with the same type of people or the same type of environment. So I think it's very important to try to kind of shift that kind of societal consciousness in a different direction. And a lot of the things that people said here today, I forget who it was, I'm sorry again, but somebody said, you know, 80% of the things that we produce, we throw out. It's hysterical. We go to work and we make stuff just to throw it out. And I think if we can raise this awareness and this understanding of how things are working, it'll start to shift this kind of social consciousness and get the dialogue in the direction that everybody's talking about, towards relationships, towards sustainable fulfillment. So I think it has to begin by raising this awareness. And we are products of our environment, so if we can kind of re-educate one another in a general sense, I believe this will be the start of something very good.
It's a very interesting perspective, I think, kind of kaleidoscoped together with all of your ideas. So now I want to go to each of you for this last question. You all just gave a proposal, so let's say that the new approach that you proposed was implemented. In a sentence or two, paint us a picture of what it would look like if we implemented it. And let's go ahead and go back to Felicia.
Okay, in a sentence or two, that's easy because it's beginning to happen. Recall I was talking about having business owners coming together into communities, and what happens is that people are less stressed out because they are making enough money. There's enough money to survive on. And people are getting good services and getting good quality care. It gets relaxed. Finally, you know, life gets less stressful. Thank you.
Thank you. And Gregory?
You know, I would say if we were to implement some of these things, we're talking about politics, we talk about your community, you talk about your job. That's yours. That's yours. It belongs to you. It belongs to the people that you're in it with. Take it back. Take it back. Really jump on it and get it. And I think when we talk about things like freedom, we talk about food, clean water, education, equal opportunity, protecting our planet, finding out what else is out there. If we really take these things back, we're going to be able to do those things and get a better grip on it.
Thanks, Gregory. Leslie?
Basically, it would be a society of giving instead of taking and consuming. and an educational system that teaches children to cultivate their gifts instead of, so they can contribute with their gifts to the society. And basically, people changing within and having a society, an environment of love.
Thanks, Leslie. Alicia?
Well, I tend to agree with everything that is said. Education is the key issue because we have to change the values that we're thinking and the values that we're emphasizing, whether through the media or in the schools. The schools have to change philosophy from preparing kids to be part of the machine, to be parts of society, feeling responsibility, feeling more connected to one another. Classroom has to change. We have to change everything that we think relationship between parents and children, have more time between parents and children. So the connection is between us to see that the relationship that we're talking about is not measured by success through what this economist was saying, through dollar amount, but rather through different values. I don't know, happiness value or something that is more tangible to our life other than dollar and cents. And through that, we can start dreaming about something that makes more sense to us and not through bank account and unnecessary aggression. We have so much to give to one another, but we don't know how to do it and where to start with it. And I think that's the opportunity that we have through the what comes out in this roundtable as a model to start something in society. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Alicia. And Deborah, if I could kind of focus it a bit, Deborah, if you could just state in a couple words like what your solution was, remind us, and then kind of paint that picture for us. How does society look once we implement what you proposed?
Education and teaching children empathy and each other empathy, really. We go from being out of balance to a balance. I agreed with everything that everyone said, be a society of love. And like we'd have a responsibility to each other and develop a connection. And I think basically the only one word I could think of that would describe everything is that we would become like united again in unity. We'd be fighting for the same things to develop a world of love.
Thank you, Deborah. And Yelena?
Oh, I so amazed by all your answer that I just like lost a little bit myself. But in my point of view, I feel like a mother and a grandmother. I see the future of my children, and not just my children, the all children around, to be safe and happy, and their family safe and happy, and grow up in a safe environment, which one we can trust, and to be good people. Thank you.
Thank you, Elena. And Walter, again, your solution in a couple words, and then paint that picture for us.
Well, my solution is embodied in the Whole Earth Design Project, the objective of which is to design an ecologically and environmentally sustainable economic system capable of providing all of life's essentials to every individual on the planet. And to be able to do so with an average of, let's say, a week of labor, and then spend all the rest of the time enjoying yourself. That's it.
Thank you so much. And finally, Peter.
I think the solution that we propose is to raise awareness of the interdependent and interconnected world that we live in, I think this is very clear. I think there has to be some re-education that happens at all levels, not just with children. And to paint the picture of what that would look like, I think a lot of people said it. It would be a world of love. I think we can use or harness our competitive nature, but to compete for different things. If we can educate children and adults to compete for generosity or love or caring or mutual responsibility or mutual support instead of consumption and dog eat dog and all these things that everybody has expressed, every single person will be happy, and every single person will kind of parallel the laws of nature that we see in our lives.
Thank you. And thank you all for participating in our Mutual Responsibility Virtual Roundtable Live, both our speakers and members of our audience. Through this conversation, where we listened and talked together as equals, we gained insight into important social changes affecting the American dream today. We also explored ways of creating a new social environment that will positively impact our lives by embracing our mutual dependence and mutual responsibility. In closing, Mutual Responsibility extends an invitation for all of you to return and participate in our next exciting event. We invite you to share both your experience here as well as suggestions for future topics by visiting Mutual Responsibility's Roundtable Live Facebook page at www.facebook.com/Roundtable Live and by leaving your feedback. Together we can make the dialogue going and build our next virtual Roundtable Live. And now, as promised, a surprise ending. Come on, surprise us.
This is our life. Sure, we can rethink everything about it, but we shouldn't. Instead, we should just keep it the way it is. Habits are hard to break, and let's face it, it's easier to simply exist from paycheck to paycheck. It's fast becoming unheard of to lead a life of happiness, equality, and brotherhood, and wake up to a world full of love. And we raise our children to demand brand values over social values. Gone are the days when we crave mutual care, unity, and concern for others, and we give out awards for power, vanity, and net worth. We just don't give a damn about is our new anthem. And unity is not an option for the 99% and the 1%. Self-interest is the only way to survive in this new world, and the idea that we're one big loving family is slowly dying out. Our narcissistic culture of scorn and fear is gradually enveloping our hearts, while a true feeling of warmth and solidarity is but a vague memory in our minds. The rule of manipulation, greed, and exploitation has invaded our society and occupied our city squares. Love your neighbor as you love yourself is the biggest cliche anyone can think of. You can't change anything here. This is our life, but we can turn it around. Together.
This is our life, but we can turn it around. You can't change anything here is the biggest cliche anyone can think of. Love your neighbor as you love yourself has invaded our society and occupied our city squares. The rule of manipulation, greed, and exploitation is but a vague memory in our minds, while a true feeling of warmth and solidarity is gradually enveloping our hearts. Our narcissistic culture of scorn and fear is slowly dying out, and the idea that we're one big loving family the